Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Late Show, live from Los Angeles. This is your host, Young Brando. I am with my guest, Alireza, who just very kindly shared his new watch with us. How does it feel? How are the
I
new
will let you know
shoes?
tomorrow. I'll throw that strap on, and it will be for a few days straight. It will be on my wrist.
What are you wearing now?
I have my nighttime ritual as a G-Shock. I have the Hanabasara, the Mr. G Hanabasara. God, I love this watch. It's crazy. I could hammer nails with it, take a bullet with it. It's a crazy watch. The most limited production Mr. G, I think the most expensive Mr. G as well. So you really have to like G-Shocks to want to buy this watch.
Tell us a little about it because I'm completely unequipped to say anything about G-Shocks, positive or negative for that matter.
So the Mr. G's are the pinnacle of G-Shock line. They're all hand assembled. I still think they're all hand assembled in a different factory. This one is their Corbarian titanium alloy, right?
Okay.
And it was inspired by samurai armor. So the bezel itself, it's really hard to see actually, but the bezel itself is carved and cut like the pearl that would often appear on the top of a samurai's helmet.
Okay.
It is, for such a big watch, it's remarkably light because it is all titanium. And the Mr. G construction is metal all throughout. So you have the MTG, which is a step below this, where they still have polymer components as part of the body and the chassis. But limited run, I think, of 400 for this guy. And the Mr. G's since then that were limited were at 500. So this was, I still think, the most limited. It was retail at 8,000 US. So you have to love these watches, right? Oh wait, I think we lost Brando. Haha.
No. I
Oh,
was I was just zooming on you. Yeah.
oh no, you know what? I'm used to JJ StreamYard where I have administrative permission. I can see everybody in the bottom. I didn't see you. I'm like, oh.
Well, you are a very special guest, but I would not give administrative permissions to my father if he rose from the grave. So sorry about that.
No offense taken. So, yeah, and every night I switch over to one of my two G-Shocks. This just happens to be my favorite, and I switch over to this the most often. And it's taken a beating. I mean, it's been hunting, working on all manner of things, and there isn't a. I mean, if there is a blemish on it, I can't see it. So their alloy and their finishing is superb. It looks very much like a high-end ceramic. The finishing.
Mm,
So I love this watch.
that's very cool. So you do have a preference for bracelet watches overall.
Yeah, by far, right? The first rubber strap that worked for me really well is the second generation of the rubber strap for the AP 15720. So the
The
first
diver.
generation, the diver, yeah, the first generation of the offshore, Royal Oak Offshore 15720, the first generation of that strap, which still had the removable components, didn't have the same grooving underneath.
Mhm.
So it definitely that one works for me. So I've held on to that one, and it's a very top heavy watch. So uh, uh, the strap also helps with the circulation of air and actually keeping it secure. So I do like that. Um, I haven't had much luck with. I tried some Omegas. Uh,
Mhm.
I tried a number of other watches with leather straps, and they weren't uncomfortable, but in the Florida summer, they were just intolerable. Right. So the solution I came up with, I shouldn't say I came up with it. Somebody had posted, I think it was like a Rolex forums, that they would take Badger Balm and put a little bit of Badger Balm on the inside of the
Mhm.
leather. And I know what Badger Balm is, and I didn't have Badger Balm, but I have my unscented beard balm. I'm like, okay, I did the same thing, and it works beautifully. It just makes it much more comfortable to wear throughout the day. Yeah, you can't see it. So the second generation of the strap has grooving on the inside of the strap. And I think I
Okay.
was talking to Cap about this. I still haven't found a press photo of it.
Yeah, I've been searching frantically in the background. I can't find anything online either.
I
They
would be
all look
surprised
new.
if they only did it in the longer version of the strap, which I have because my wrists are longer. So I'll have to leave it out of the. It's currently in the safe. I'll have to leave it out of the safe just to take some pictures and post it. But it's nicely done for
Absolutely.
me. I have the blue dial. Although there may be pictures of the inside of the strap on my IG already. But yeah. Paul Way.
Hey, Pauli and John Seltzer. Guys, feel free to jump on the panel if you like. As long as we have panelists, I much prefer to have a freewheeling conversation. The season is long, the auction season is long. There's always going to be time to cover. And I just had actually the pleasure to visit Phillips here, which just established an outpost in West Hollywood. And they had brought well, I mean, good part of their New York team and about 24 of watches. That is only a small portion, of course, of the some 130 lots that they are going to offer on auction in the spring in New York City. But there were a few very interesting pieces, including the number 2 pocket watch by one Roger Smith, who works out of Isle of Man. Apparently, the story between that is he only ever made 3 pieces in pocket watch form. The very first one, his master rejected it. George Daniel said, "This is not it. Disassemble it." I think the conversation was something to the effect that this looks too handmade, right? That because he made everything by hand. Okay, this looks too artisanal. Try something else. So number 2 is now being offered on auction at Phillips in New York in the upcoming spring season. And then he made also a number 3 apparently, but I believe that wasn't as complicated. This is a perpetual calendar piece that I will share hopefully already by tomorrow. John Seltzer, Al22, and Mike David. And it was one of the very, very impressive things. There was an AP Royal Oak Grand Comp, everything but the kitchen sink, everything but the tourbillon. So it had it had the minute repeater, it had the split second chronograph, it had the perpetual calendar. Beautiful piece. Yeah, I'm yet to hear an AP Grand Sonnerie before until then, I should put it that way. I'm still in love with Chopin's particular execution of the chiming watch, which has this kind of sapphire monoblock system, that uses the crystal for enhanced amplified acoustics, and it really, I mean,
It sings.
it's something else. It really does. Let me see. I have a short on this channel with that watch in particular, and even in that, obviously much more compressed video. This is the full strike. Let us see. It's just fascinating. I mean, to me, again, I've been lucky to handle about half a dozen, maybe different ones. Of course, Patek is Patek, and theirs has a, in pink gold, usually a very interesting character to it that's more church bell like. This to me sounds like the clinking of champagne glass or something, something a little more
There's a resonance
real.
to it.
Yeah, something more celebratory, less somber, and it's a great sound to it, and even comes through um, in this, because I think immediately I have a Lange there, which again, nothing to sneeze at, but
Entirely different.
Champagne.
and again, I don't want to,
No, but I mean they're both remarkable. But that the LUC Chopard is just that sings. And as soon as I saw the top of your video said it has a nice ring to it, I realized that the place I heard it was your video. I was thinking to myself, I didn't know you had a show on it. Well, no, it was your video that I heard.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get the reason I still share those videos freely, even though I get most of my trolling from them, is to be able to share that joy of encountering these sorts of very special watches. Because every time I post something, I get some comments about my arm hair, something about my puny wrists, but it's worth it. It's certainly worth it.
I've had somebody follow me around to a lot of streams recently that will comment on my age, my weight, the shirt I'm wearing, if I've been awake, like on a million different things. Let me before you get to this, I did want to ask you a question before I forget.
Yes, of course.
This is an assumption. I'm presuming you know. Is Phillips currently the fastest growing auction house?
Overall, or just watches?
Well, I mean, certainly for watches. But I mean, overall, they just seem to be everywhere.
I think okay, we I don't know if I want to dance around it or go head on. They came out pretty, let me put it this way, they came out quite unscathed out of this Russia crisis, let's put it like that, because their owners are Russian. I think for the better, certainly, but for whatever reason, they haven't been targeted, even though they took down Chelsea, for example, and Roman Abramovich. I don't know why they didn't mess with Phillips, but that they didn't means that they're pretty strong, maybe too big to fail as well. They're the fastest growing. I have to say, it's quite a remarkable track record already that they had so-called white glove sales for 2 years back to back. This might not last for another season, but hey, how are you, Dan?
Hey man, hey Wally, good to see you.
Hey man, did you have a good Independence Day today?
Well, I blacked out, so I guess yes.
Hey, got rest. Fair enough.
And a nice haircut and a trim out of it too. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Love
so happy to be here.
Hey, do you like my outfit? What does this outfit remind you
of? Golfing.
Okay, but particularly these tones.
Ben Gurion, announcing Israel.
I wish. This is what I was shooting for, because I knew you were gonna be here. Let me.
Oh, I know.
Tell
Sosa from Scarface. Yep. That's fantastic.
Yeah, he's on the phone like, I love it.
That's
fantastic. I couldn't find.
God, Sosa was a great, tertiary character. He was fantastic.
My favorite. Yeah.
I think, in fact, in some of the in some of these listicles and polls, he always comes out to be one of the favorite movie villains of all time. Obviously, maybe can't beat Darth Vader and Joker in these sorts of popularity contests, but certainly he's a heavyweight. By the way, I want to share this for those who may not have been aware, who may have missed it. My brother Dis and I actually did this at the movies thing that hopefully we will be able to continue in the long run. But the first one we focused on Scarface, which is his favorite movie and certainly one of my favorite as well. I don't know. I have a hard time considering Scarface just a movie. It is really part of my political education, part of my American education. So it's something that I genuinely treasure. Did it make you try to traffic in drugs now that you're so well situated, Ali, at all?
No.
No.
No, but it did. It was actually. How old was I? I was a teen. I may have been 15 or 16 when I saw it. And I wasn't supposed to see it. Right? It was one of those movies that my parents didn't want me to see. But I think it was the first time I was exposed to any mention of geopolitics in a film. Shortly thereafter, I saw Full Metal Jacket, which obviously there's geopolitics in that film, right? So it was the first time I think I ever encountered the idea of, there was geopolitics in film, and God, that's an amazing film. That's an amazing film.
Yeah.
The chainsaw scene and the so vibrant. I mean, by today's standard, it's not even violent, but yeah.
Well, I think that was one of the things we touched on. Actually, I mean, it's the funny thing is the original movie. So when it was first adapted from the book, it was already considered pretty violent and was more or less censored out of movie theaters left and right, to the extent that they had to wait the producer's death to order this remake, right? Because he held on to it and didn't want anyone to mess with it anymore. And of course, in the 80s, it was just the De Palma Oliver Stone version was considered outrageously violent. That not only the chainsaw scene, but the outright execution, that happens on the street at the end. Bless you.
That's it. Bless you.
And that was the first point we started with, by the way, the how politically charged the movie is from the get-go. That's that scene of the father consoling his toddler son and showing him the American flag, that's kind of spliced with Castro's speech, that,
and the cinematography of when they pull out with the crowds, right,
Yes.
coming in, the police interrogation scene, Manny's the first hit, right, and he says, I know that name, it's political, right, and they touch on all the points. It's extremely memorable in a way that, because it's not as artistic as Godfather, right? So people will never put it in that same category as the Godfather, but it is every bit is like impactful to people of that generation. Right? People remember it. But yeah, Sosa was scary. I don't even know I don't know if I saw that actor in anything else.
He was like a stage actor mostly. Was very, very good. Was
like Shakespearean trained. That
yes.
Paul Shanhar.
Yeah,
because you see,
did you know that from his father's side, Paul Shanhar is a Sephardic Jew?
I guessed. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, but he's kind of like a silent killer vibe, by the way. Is in the sense like he's very suave. He has this sort of quasi British accent that you can't quite place.
Yeah.
And
in
that kind of plantation that he doesn't really belong, surrounded by all these people who serve him and who are clearly more indigenous than he is. It's just an interesting and very sinister character.
Yeah, and I remember vividly when they're walking to the courtyard to sit down, to have the unwanted negotiation, right? He's walking and he looks distinctly different from everybody else. I mean, Tony Montana obviously is meant to be flamboyant even when he walks, but he looks authoritative the whole time. I just remember this guy's a supervillain. Yeah, Sosa was great, man. Sosa was great. That whole film was great. I mean, the whole film was amazing.
I love the
you were seeing
conversation.
something.
Yeah, I love this conversation. Can talk about it for hours. And I want Ali to participate in our next movie discussion if he's interested. But I have one thing to say to you, Ali. Don't fuck me, Ali. Never try to fuck me.
Yeah. Oh, the music selection, fantastic.
Yeah, Giorgio.
Yeah,
Giorgio Moroder. Yeah.
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 So sorry, I started with the Phillips question and then disjoined, and we got into the Scarface. I did enjoy that episode quite a bit. I only joined, I think it was the last 5 minutes of the live, but I did watch the episode. I did enjoy it quite a bit. And it's definitely kind of an you can't, if you like new rock stars, which they review obviously every comic book movie and stuff like that, right? You can't do a new rock stars type video on Scarface. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
you can't
true.
review those classics that way. So just having those reminiscing discussions, and you touch on style, and you touch on the geopolitics, and you touch on the cinematography, right?
Honestly, I mean, look, the thing is, especially when I have someone like this who is at least as passionate as I am about the movie, our main problem was, how do we condense this into an hour, or like 75 minutes at most? And how we managed was, we had just like a little bit of a huddle right before we started live. Let's see if we can touch on these like maybe 3.5 keywords.
Yeah.
And I think that was very helpful.
It was.
So before I derailed you, you'd pulled up a list, I think.
Oh yeah. So, all right. As you guys know, I got the entire set right when it came out of the Seiko 5 Rowing Blazers collaboration from 2022, and I have given away the orange dial one to our community member Nish from mostly through Instagram, and then on YouTube, I was lucky enough that Captain ended up with the next one, with the green dial Seiko, because he made a very generous contribution when we were fundraising for the victims of the earthquake in Syria and Turkey. But I still have two more. I still have the black dial with nautical flags, and the blue dial one, which I also have one of these blue dial ones, so that's also my favorite as it happens. But I decided I will give the third one to my most ardent supporters, my big six on Patreon, and I basically gave them numbers by the dates they have joined me on Patreon by chronological order. So it's number 1, Corrado Galizia. Number 2, Bezels. Number 3 is Jake Brooks. Number 4 is Gondog. Number 5 is Avo. And number 6 is Ali Reza. So I will delegate this honor to the Google number generator, and
I personally hope that Corrado wins so I can hear you say the name again.
Okay. I mean, I love that. That's why I want to do an earlier show, because he's on the East Coast as well. And I also have a lot of pleasure saying Corrado Galizia. It's just a beautiful name. So I don't blame you. All right. So it is time number 1 to 6, and Bobby Google is going to decide on the lucky winner.
The
Let's
Bobby
go.
Google.
3, 2, 1. Number 1, Corrado Galizia.
Congrats.
Congratulations, Crado.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm very happy. Again, Corrado, you will have your choice. I don't know if it's already past midnight where you are, so you may have already gone. You will have your pick between the black and blue, whichever one you choose is yours. And then the very last one, I will have to find some way to give. But I already have a couple of ideas. But this is very, very good. Van Lux is, as always, of course. I think this is the third time we have done this. Each time Van Lux is there to say rigged, and he isn't even part of the drawing. You know, he doesn't even.
I'm
have
from
a
Florida.
number.
If I'm gonna, I should have a gripe on recounts.
That's a very good one. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, we have to honor the process, Ali. So that we are not gonna have a recount. We have to preserve the, you know, dignity of this republic.
The dignity. There we go. Absolutely. So congratulations, Corrado. Wake up.
I will email him and I will send him a message on Patreon. I don't think he is in the chat this time.
I've got 2 giveaways we're going to be doing at JJ's channel coming up in the next few thousand subscribers. One of them I might rig. I'd be like, oh, look, I won. What a surprise.
Okay. Rig for yourself. That's nice.
Young Brando, I must say,
Yes, sir.
I gave away a watch once. I gave away a Casio Duo in my channel,
Okay.
and I don't think I've seen. And I know I'm complimenting you when I'm really saying this because that's what I think. I don't see a lot of giveaways in the Archieverse, so props to you for doing that. That's fucking amazing.
I know Cap really liked his Rolling Blazers as well. No, absolutely, especially at scale. So it's very generous. They're fun to do too, right? We did one on I think it was a JJ's channel as a fundraiser, like a giveaway, you know, as part of a fundraiser. But they're fun to do. You have people that you get to know, right? At least a few of the people I know very, very well now, right? So,
and you know how I did the second one was actually really just good karma in a way, because what I did was the first and last super chat of every session for that particular month, right? Except when it was the fundraising for earthquake victims, I said, okay, every single super chat from this stream gets a number in the drawing. And that was one of the super chats was by Captain, and he ended up winning. So it's that's the really meaningful part for me. Otherwise, of course, I love the people who collaborated on these watches. First of all, Jack is an older friend. Eric is someone I can finally consider a friend, you know, after having collaborated on this platform, you know, having done the 4 interviews, and hopefully I will actually meet him in person in June as well, when he's in New York, in Los Angeles. Sorry, he's coming to Los Angeles. So it's for me, it's really fun, and I didn't want to set any goals that are too stringent. Something that encourages participation in the channel, of course, something that, of course, drives traffic to the channel. You know, it's nothing is too selfless. and too generous on a monetized platform. So I don't want to pass, I don't want to pat my own back too much. At the end of the day, of course, it is to generate excitement. It is to all right. Want to dance, Frank, or sit here and have a heart attack? Thank you.
Let's
6
dance.
seconds.
Let's dance. I heard there's an unboxing. Nah, take it.
Van, Van,
Van Lux,
Oh,
that's
too soon.
No.
Too soon.
No.
that'll always be
Too soon. Too
Yeah.
soon. But yeah, that's a nice line as well. Want to dance, Frank, or sit here and have a heart attack?
It's deep, you know. You can sit at home and or you can go out, dance, have a great time, and meet new people and buy watches. So
Buy watches, not where they were dancing. But,
true.
But yeah, that could be. I think maybe in another segment, this we can focus on a movie or TV series which has a lot of interesting watches, and we can approach it from that angle a little bit as well. I mean, there's of course some interesting watches in Scarface as well. And you remember in that Push It to the Limit montage when they're counting the money, you see that two-tone Datejust, and also like the bloodied cuff as well. Like it's just an amazing again, thinking about cinematography, right? The fact that they snuck in that bloodied shirt cuff in that money counting scene is just genius.
Amazing, indeed. Yeah.
So where next? Ali? Now that you have checked off this grail, I know you're working on something. You don't necessarily have to reveal that, but what genre, what kind of watch are you looking for?
Well, I think I'm not prepared to reveal the one we had talked about backstage at this point, but I do want to. I have a sports watch upgrade that's definitely coming, and then the last piece is that I really want to go ahead and get my phone call from AP. I would really like to get a 15407 in either rose or steel, either one. And I don't know that I will make a brand departure beyond what is already planned for this year, and hopefully everything before the end of the calendar year. Probably what's next after that is if Casio releases another Mystery G. I love these Mystery Gs, so that's probably just going to be a fun thing for me to do. And then, from the horological standpoint, something that I've been scattered around the house. I have other time-telling devices that are, from my point, unique. There's one that I'm waiting for that was a Kickstarter, which is it tells the time in text by bringing up a snippet of literature. Right, so it's a paragraph or whatnot for the story, but it has the words for the time. Right, so it highlights the words that would tell the time, but it's a paragraph from the story. Right, so I have that coming up hopefully fairly soon when that Kickstarter finally ships. But something I'm giving serious consideration to is a high-end pocket watch, because I have two lower-end pocket watches. I have a vintage Longines, and I have a modern ball pocket watch. But I'm giving some strong consideration to a high-end pocket watch as a kind of a desk accoutrement.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's also we were talking about conversation pieces, right? Like a serious pocket watch. That Roger Smith, beyond its name and value and rarity, but it was like a 66 millimeter, like good old school Breguet style pocket watch. The substance you feel in that, there's nothing in the world of wristwatches, wearable stuff on your wrist that gives you that sort of material and emotional weight. So it is something very special, a good pocket watch. I do want to. So yesterday I didn't do any live streams, so I want to share again, and I do want to mark this before we talk about something a little more celebratory. The 24th was, of course, Genocide Memorial Day for the more than 1.5 million Armenians lost. And to me, it's very important because, you know, there's that phrase that's attributed to Hitler, who said, "Who remembers the Armenians?" when he was convincing people to initiate the Holocaust. So I feel that memory is very much tied to the idea of never again, and it is something that has defined the 20th century and need not define the 21st and generations to come. So it's something that needs to be remembered with the same respect, with the same honor, and with the same kind of hope looking towards the future as the Holocaust. So I do want to mark that. But today, of course, as my friends are going back and forth in the chat, Chag Sameach to you too.
Yeah, I'm sorry if it's impolite. I'm just
Gam Lecha.
catching up.
But it's not only the Independence Day for Israel; it's also the 75th anniversary. So it's quite big. It's quite
Yeah.
big.
We had in Australia as well. So yeah, there's a lot going on. It's the Armenian situation. Like, it's odd when you think about it because we're 100 years later, and it's still like you're not even supposed to talk about it in some circles. You're not even supposed to bring it up in some circles.
Right. It's more than it's now 108 years, and of course it was neither the first nor the last targeting of non-Muslims within Ottoman Empire, something that took a particular kind of intensity in the late 19th century and beginning of 20th. So yeah.
Marcelo, is that true? I heard about it. What he's saying.
They're not the only one. I mean, there is usually when you ask for extract of certain watches in the 30s and 40s from Omega, if they don't come up with any information, usually those are the watches that are made for, let's say, RLM. That's Reichsluftfahrtministerium. It's the Imperial Ministry of Aviation. So they have made watches for them. Universal made watches for them. Of course, Lange made watches for them. IWC made watches for them. The whole genre of Beuhr is, Beobachtersuhr, the navigation style pilot's watch was very popular. But yeah, I mean, look, I would rather not get into that kind of conversation, to be absolutely honest.
Can I just ask? I understand Ali has a new piece. I missed the unboxing. So.
Oh yeah, would you like to show your piece to this, Ali?
Sure. Let me
piece to this.
Grab it. I had tucked it away, so I didn't knock it over before morning. We have a Carl Suhi and Sone Waltz Night and Day.
Oh, wow. Okay, you talked about this on one of the shows, right?
Yeah. So it has the waltzing seconds. The disc is, rotating. You can see it rotating, obviously, very slowly there. And I got it custom made with a steel case instead of the DLC.
Nice.
Fuck.
Congrats, man.
I really like it, and I'm hoping I'll post some pictures so people can see the texture.
Yeah.
But yeah, holding it up to a laptop webcam just doesn't do this watch any justice at
Yeah,
all.
of course, of course. Wow,
But,
I love the hands. They reach to the minute track. I love it.
Yeah, it's spaced very nicely, and the movement is properly sized. I'm really happy with it. My whole buying experience was excellent with a relatively or an unknown brand. So I wish them all
Wow.
the best. They made this very smooth for me.
Nice. Wow. Congrats, man. Wow. That's
Thank you very much.
that's a piece you don't. That's a piece you don't. I never see something like this like on the stream.
Yeah.
Well, that's also why I was here at Young Brando's stream, because
Yeah.
it's one of the places where I'm not going to get a you should have bought a Rolex, right? Now my good
Mhm.
friends, right, Cap, JJ, they will never, you buy what you love, right? You buy what you're going to wear, but
Definitely.
there's going to be the you should have bought a Rolex crowd no matter what.
Yeah. Wow. How large is it? How much in diameter?
It's 41.5 mil.
Okay.
The lugs are obviously very small, so the lug is probably 43, 44 mil tops.
Mhm.
It's so for me, it's the pretty much the smallest workable size I can do on a dress watch.
Mhm.
The strap is too short, so I got to swap the strap out. They're shipping me 2 longer straps, but I don't think I'm going to do it tonight because I'm fading pretty fast. So tomorrow I'll swap the straps out with the strap I have so I can get some wrist time on it. Vasho movement, it's nicely finished. And I am going to have to get used mentally to the slower frequency. It's been a long time since I've had a 3 hertz watch.
Mhm.
So I will notice that. I know in my head I will notice that. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
I
Does it have a second sound? I didn't notice. Don't pull it out. It's okay. Just I didn't.
this bottom that was rotating is the
Oh,
right? They call it the waltzing disc.
nice.
So it's just I wanted I refer to the AP Royal Oaks, the 15500, 6510, 5400s. They're sports watches that are dressy enough, but I wanted a dress watch that was slightly sporty.
Yeah.
And this fit the bill beautifully.
So it's basically this model, but with the stainless steel case.
Yeah.
Which they haven't produced yet in a run. And they have a few more tone on tone kind of approaches as well.
Yeah, it's really pretty. It's really well done. So I'm very happy.
Austrian. It's from Vienna.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love Vienna. My favorite city, I think.
He was talking. This was talking about Vienna earlier today on his Independence Day stream.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I think I have a really hard. For me, it's still Barcelona.
Never been, but yeah.
But yeah. So, thank you, Des. I appreciate it, and yeah, I will definitely. There will be many, many more the pictures to come, and hopefully, I can do it some justice.
Do I follow you on Insta? I'm not sure. Pretty much I do, but
if you do, so I'm very on IG. I'm very particular. I try not to follow many people because my OCD gets out of control. If I don't get caught up and actually read and don't pay attention. So if you do, drop me a message and I'll make sure to follow you back because I don't think I follow you on IG. Actually, Young Brando, and that was because I saw Young Brando. I'm like, oh, I like these posts, but I'm like, I don't know this person, so I will not follow them because my OCD just wouldn't let me. And then I'm like, I didn't in my head, I didn't even put it together until one of the shows. I'm like, oh my god, Lord! I call him Lord, but he rebranded ages ago. I just totally missed it. So
I know it doesn't go away. This and I, when we were catching up on a video call, that's what we were talking about. People still. That's the funny thing, though. When it was Lord Hellesmont V, everyone was, I don't mind clowning, but some people had very strong feelings against it. Like, Lord, I won't call another man Lord, and Lord, who do you think you are, and this and that. And then I canceled the name, retired it. Now everyone calls me Lord.
For me, actually, I've been really clear that. So actually, this coincidentally, John C. just asked a question: am I Muslim? I am not. I was raised a Baha'i. I'm. I tend anti-theistic at this point in my life, but I spend like the past few months, I've spent a lot of time reading Christian apologetics books. I'm very interested in religion and faith, right? As a topic. So, but I am not Muslim. I was not, raised Muslim either. But
not necessarily to focus on that direction, but I'm kind of interested by the emphatic way you phrased it. It wasn't atheist. It wasn't something else. It was
anti-theistic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, all credit goes to Christopher Hitchens, right? He coined that term initially, right? It was anti-theistic is that it's a philosophy that there is no need for religion, right? Not just you're a-religious. There's just no need for it. There's no purpose. Now, the question is, and as I'm getting older, I've been anti-theistic for 20 years maybe, right? Mm-hmm. The question is, as you get older, you have more life experiences. Am I still anti-theistic? Which is why, and I've been reading about religions and studying religions for years. So I still say I tend to be anti-theistic. But I've always been very respectful of religion. So for me, Archie, the first thing, and I came to Archie late. I saw JJ and Artem stream before Archie stream. But the first thing is like, screw this, Pontiff? Like, good. And even Marco, like, watch Cardinal, I'm like, screw that. But Lord and Lady don't bother me. Right? But like, Marco, who's a dear friend of mine, watch Cardinal, I'm like, that's just like, no, that's not okay. Right, and Pontiff not okay. So, yeah, it's. I'm surprised people took that much exception with Lord, because Lord and Lady don't bother me in the least. Even Queen and King don't bother me in the least.
I mean, it was part of the shtick again. Just
it was fantastic, Lord, because it was very Lord Hellespont. It was fantastic. So yeah, we still call you Lord, right? I try to call you YB, or just Brando. But yeah, no, it was fantastic. So
I'm gonna work. I know you asked for Steve Irwin, but I'm gonna work on a few different impressions for you, and maybe you'll like one of them. I can do one of the shows on that. Ali, if that's what you want.
No, I would enjoy that, because when you're going through the auction block, every so often you get to a watch where you actually physically. So what you'll do, right? Because you're standing.
Okay.
You'll physically stand back up, and you will take one of your legs. You can tell one of your feet steps back before you step forward to talk about it, right? And it reminds me of when Steve Irwin's like, look at that beauty. You're doing the whole Australian thing. Because it doesn't connect with anybody else until like you do it. You actually get into it, because to everybody else, or at least to me, a horological neophyte, it's just a watch at the moment. And I know it's a Patek, I know it's an AP, I know it's a Philippe Dufour, whatever, but it's like, okay. But then you go, so you change. There's this notable change, and I absolutely love it. So it occurred to me, I was thinking Steve Irwin the whole time. Like he would do a perfect Steve Irwin, right, when he's talking about watches.
So I mean, look, I'm actually, next month I have a lot of interesting plans for the channel, and I'm gonna go into a seated setting, but I'm taking notes basically. I'm gonna find a way of conveying that sort of physical reaction, even though I'm sure it will happen somehow. I'll probably perk up in my seat or something without me having to devise a whole scheme for it. But I do also, I like, I'm not as talented as some of the people in the space, but I like doing impressions as well. So I'll bring some stuff like that into the channel once every so often, if only to just entertain myself once every so often.
Yeah. Nah, but I was thinking about that, and it was just caught me. It was just so funny to me. And Steve Irwin was, he was still big when my daughter was little. So before his untimely demise.
Sad situation, man.
Yeah, at my age, there's a lot of untimely demises. You start thinking about things differently, in your 40s, and you just getting there.
No, for sure. For sure.
So what was on the agenda tonight?
On the agenda, I was talking to this earlier. I was just hoping to welcome him to the channel, and we would just talk. But I also had the Bukowski's Stockholm that was going on. So we can take a look at that.
No, by all means, stick to if it's just a casual show chatting with this, by all means. I just don't want to derail.
No, you are not derailing at all, actually.
No,
I prefer this. Again, the auction season is long, so we can go back to Bonhams, Antiquorum, and they are posting more stuff by Christie's. Phillips is getting together their catalog again for the New York auction that's coming up, and that they shared in Los Angeles, and they are here, by the way, until Thursday. So if any of you Southern California people can swing by their new West Hollywood location, which is, of course, for everything, not just watches, but they have cleared off an entire section right next to their patio with all these great watches. There are some beautiful highlights. The number 2 Roger Smith pocket watch. There's an Audemars Piguet Grand Comp. There are 2 different kinds of Patek 130 chronographs, one in steel, one in pink gold, both of which have very different characters, and to me, just so beautiful because they are like 33, 34 millimeters. It's like a perfect gentleman's chronograph. They have apparently 3 different Rainbow Daytonas coming up in that particular curation, one of which was available there to be seen, to be inspected. So I made a lot of little videos. They had an MB&F perpetual calendar Evo. They had a Romain Gauthier logical one, which has the most strikingly mirror polished chain that I saw as part of a constant force mechanism. It's just mind-blowing stuff. But yeah, so hopefully I'll get to share some of that.
So that's a permanent installation for Phillips in West Hollywood.
Yes, they now have a location on, what is it, 9401 Nemo Street. Yeah. Oh, GD. Thank you so much. 90. Good show. Kudos and respetos. Thank you, man. Thank you so much, GD. Appreciate you. Thank you.
So what is happening in all the releases I saw in the past few days? Like Piaget released a 36 mil. Like a bunch of people released 34 and 36 mil watches, which for me is just pass. Formex, which is not a mark I used to own a Formex. I was not happy with it. They released a watch. There's that new British mark OG, Oliver Gadet. I saw them. I don't know that we're in the downturn of watch news at the moment. The 1860. Son of a goat. That's a pretty watch.
Yeah. And I just shared the 1867, which is the GMT version, in 2 different iterations on Patreon. I don't know if you had time to.
I have not seen.
Check it
I have
yet.
unread Patreon messages. I've not seen that one yet.
199 St. Peter for the crew. Thank you, St. Peter. And thank you again, GD, for the 90 pesos. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Yeah, so you like the aesthetics of this watch, Ali, but you don't think it's for you.
30. At 40 mil. I kid you not. It's not a joke. So I tan very, very easily, and I also get pale very quickly. Right? I don't hold my tan. I don't know. Like, some part of me is not Iranian, and there must be Scottish in me or something. I don't know. So I'll wear my Royal Oak, and I'll wear like the Vermont. The Vermont's 43 mil. The Royal Oak's 41 mil, but it wears bigger. And then I'll throw on a root beer that is 40.5 mil, and I have a tan line.
Yeah.
Right, the size difference is stark. So if I go to like a 40, and it will be the same thing with the Carl Suhi, but it has a completely different aesthetic, right? If I go to a 40 or below, they look like Skittles on my wrist. My wrist is too big. Like it's not. God cursed me because I'm 5'11" or 5'10 and a half. I'm not very tall. The name Sasquatch doesn't come from my size. It's actually something completely unrelated. But I've got size 13, 14 feet and 8¼ inch wrists and giant hands. So God cursed me in that sense. I'm just not proportioned properly. I'm a cartoon character.
I think it's kind of maybe it's a chicken or the egg kind of question for me, but I like vintage watches, and usually those proportions serve me well, right? So it's kind of, I don't know which one came first, but it certainly defines my own penchant for anything and everything vintage and neo vintage. I think some of the commentary on smaller watches in terms of identifying the general trend is a little overly enthusiastic, a little too, I think, a little too far-fetched, in the sense, like, there's a larger trend. I just think that a lot of people who have spent so many years collecting sports watches, 39, 40 and plus, now have that sore spot in their collection, or blind spot, let's simply call it, right? Ali, you were looking for a dress watch.
Yeah,
So people are looking for,
absolutely.
people are looking for something different. So a lot of serious collectors now who have spent their time getting the next best Rolex, the newest one, the most popular one, the most hyped one. And the great thing about the Royal Oak and the Nautilus is the hype of those watches, and even the Daytona, has primed a lot of enthusiasts rather well for the smaller, sleeker, and maybe daintier dimensions of classically proportioned dress watches, and even some vintage watches. So when you jump from oversized Breitling to LUC 1860, not really. But when you jump from, for example, the Royal Oak Jumbo or the Nautilus Jumbo to something like this, it's not so far-fetched, right?
No, you're absolutely right. Now, I do want to step back a little bit on what you said. I want to be really clear. My own penchant, since I cannot pronounce words as eloquently as you, I tend to like vintage designs of everything better. Everything. And watches almost more than anything else. So, which is one of the big reasons I'm a fan of Berluti and their patining, because it gives everything a more slightly vintage look, right, for their leather goods. So I love vintage watches, and I love modern brands that have Art Deco and other periods of time intermixed with their design. I love them, but they tend to all be too small for me on my wrist. And the other aspect of it is, I think, an age-related aspect. I can't read some of these watches. It's hard for me to read some of the watches that are 43 mil now.
Well,
Right.
I mean, I think the problem is your approach. Does anyone read time from their watches at this point?
I do, right? My OCD is broken that way. I'm one of those guys that I set my watch I intentionally set it 4 to 5 seconds ahead when I set it, right? And I monitor its drift over the course of a week.
No, I mean I don't blame you, but I'm also only partly joking because for me, of course, as much of a horological nerd as I am, I'm also in a way when I in my daily practice, I certainly privilege the aesthetics. I really look at it more as part of an outfit, as an accessory, and even as a masculine piece of jewelry. So
Mhm.
it's the timekeeping function from a day-to-day basis does take kind of second, um, second wheel for
Yeah.
me. These another 6 shekels. Chat YB Ali, please tell me why Coke is best. And I said,
And
rush, give me Yayo.
I just want to add a little to the question because it was short. I have in my disposal, I have of course, the Coke insert that actually Diego helped me, taught me how to switch the insert by myself. And I have a black insert and I have a Pepsi insert, and something in me really wants to replace it to the black insert. So, what do you think, and why is Coke better than black?
Okay, so Ali, do you want to tackle this, or you don't feel as invested in it, perhaps?
I don't feel as invested in it. For me, the definitive Rolex Submariner to me is sub. Being clear, sub to me is the no date with a black bezel. Every Rolex I've ever seen with a solid black bezel to me appeals more than the two color bezels. Period.
Hmm.
I wish even on the um, on the whole existing line there were more uniform color choices. And I would say, like looking at the Burgundy Black Bay 58 from Tudor, right, that a uniform bezel for me just does more for me than a two color bezel. So I don't know if I'm a good person to ask that.
So in
Yeah.
my case, I think I partly agree. I'll approach it from the other end. Basically, one of the reasons that in more recent time that the GMT Master eclipsed the Submariner, perhaps not in sales but in popular demand, is because it injects some kind of color, some variation into what is otherwise a pretty black scale, black on black on black kind of aesthetic that a lot of professional Rolex sports watches have. Now, having basically started my love in luxury watches, in these sorts of watches with the 5513, which to me remains still the iconic Rolex watch. For me, um, I like exactly the Coke insert because for me it's different enough from the Submariner in terms of the first glance kind of aesthetics, but it also preserves the original purpose of that 24-hour bezel, because it's the bicolor thing. Yes, it is fun, it's colorful, but the main purpose of it was to make that distinction between daytime hours and nighttime hours. So for me, as much as I love that black on black on black Rolex aesthetic, and I actually appreciate a black bezel on a GMT Master, even in the ceramic generation, I think Coke does best of both worlds for me. It's not ostentatious, not too flamboyant. It
Mhm.
serves a practical function, and once it takes in a little bit of the sun, once it fades and the color starts changing, it's just a beautiful sight to see. Again, the red becomes kind of a shade of pink. Usually, the black turns into kind of navy. So it's a little more fun than the all black bezel, and it is also functional. So it's easy to justify the Coke for me.
Mhm.
I will say, and I should have said that, the Coke bezel for me is by far the favorite of the series for the 2-color bezels, by far. So that I utterly agree with you. It's funny that you mentioned the 5513 as well, because I will get a birth year watch. I will get one at some point here, right? 77 is my birthday, 46 years old. The 5513, I do not like Rolex as like a mark as a whole, but the 5513, I love that watch. I love that watch.
Yeah. It's really, there's something very pure about it. Like as much as I sometimes just want to set it aside because it's so precious, but having lost my father so early in my life, it's also for me a very substantive connection. So the more I wear it, the more I enjoy it as well. But it always brings that back for me. You know, why do I love this thing? Why do I love watches so much? I put that on, and it's always the feeling also, if everything else falls away in my life, if I lose everything else, including all my watches, my platform, and whatever else, I can just strap that on and take a flight somewhere else and start from scratch. And that will give you enough, that will give me enough of an energy, enough of a boost. St. Peter says, don't covet GMT. Rolex introduces new Coke. I am on board. Here is the resounding vote for Coke as well. $4.99 US. Thank you so much, St. Peter.
My reasons for the 5513 are not as intimate as your reasons are. For me, the 5513 is the actual professional engineer, superhero, James Bond. Like, that's the watch. Like, in my head, that's the watch that those icons of my childhood wore. Whether they did or not, that's the way I remember it. Right. So yeah, it's one of those things.
So this has to leave us in a moment. I want to thank him for coming by, and thank you for talking watches. Even if you change the bezel, please update us, keep us updated, let us know.
Yeah, I will. But no, I'm remaining with the Coke because you two convinced me. Because Lord said about the functionality, and he loves that it's not pretentious, right? That's something along the lines. And Ali said, and Ali, who I appreciate a lot, and I think Ali, if I'm mistaken, tell me, Rolex is not exactly your cup of tea, right?
No, not my cup of tea. But the Coke.
But you did say, yeah, you did say that Coke is like, if you'd go for Coke.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that.
And the chat was also very supportive of the Coke, so I'm influenced and I'm sticking with the Coke.
Nice. Yeah, St. Peter approves as well.
Thank you very much. I would love to stay, but I'm just meeting an old friend. We haven't met since 2005.
Amazing, man.
Yeah, he's a big progressive rock guy and classic rock, and we're gonna talk some Led Zeppelin. So, yeah,
enjoy it. That's
so
great.
Good to see you again, Des.
Young Brando, thanks so much for having me. And Ali, amazing watch. I'll see you more on Instagram probably, and see you soon.
Hey, good to see you, man. Be well.
Take care.
Bye. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.
There we go. You got it.
Captain says, goodbye, Des. Enjoy your company. Enjoy the conversation on Led Zeppelin. Captain says, Pepsi greater than Coke, greater than black. Add some color. And
Captain's
real
closer,
world.
and he's a stylish closer too. So it's not for me. I'm not as stylish as Cap.
I respect that. I mean, look, Pepsi is not okay, man. Pepsi is not okay, as they say. You know, if we're gonna use soda analogies, let's go the whole way with it. Real World Curly says, wearing a watch reminds me my time is limited. Gotta get back to work. Thanks for the company. Hey,
take care, Curly, man. Good to see you
here, man. So yeah, speaking of heroes, Roger Moore actually did wear a 55-13.
Exactly.
So, and there was a modified buzzsaw version of it that was actually sold by Philips a few years ago. As you can see,
Look at that.
I love that they actually bothered the prop department to do something like that. It's quite cool as a piece. And I don't remember her name, but I remember, she's one of my favorite
That looks
Bond
like
girls
Jane
of all time.
Seymour.
Is she?
That can't be. Her face just
don't think
looks like
so.
Jane Seymour to me.
Let's see. Hmm. No, yeah, it is Jane Seymour. Her name in the movie was Solitaire, and that was Live and Let Die. Yeah.
I like those. I mean, Jane Seymour's OG, right? For me, like now it's the Jennifer Connelly and the Kate Beckinsale, but Jane Seymour's original. Man, that's going back.
Yeah. I mean, again, also, of course, the mythology has been dismantled and history has been restored. We now know that 50 Fathoms genuinely came before the Submariner, and it was the first modern dive watch. All of that being said, that No Date Look has such an iconic status for anyone who likes to wear a sports watch, and it's been iterated so much, it's been so influential that it's hard to escape. It's like it's like Freud's thinking of the unconscious, right? Freud has been scientifically disproven, sidelined, and maligned in so many ways. But some of his insights have become so much part of our common sense, part of popular culture, part of our cultural unconscious, if I might even pun like that. That it's childhood sexual development, right? The lasting persistence and political and cultural effects of sexual urges, death drive. Even if you don't believe in anything that Freud says, even if you have not heard the name Freud, there's some influence. And Rolex Submariner is something like that. You might hate the brand, you might not you might not. I mean, I'm not
That's
psychoanalyzing you.
fantastic. That's
you might
fantastic.
you might hate the brand. You might not even necessarily desire to own a Submariner, but in your unguarded moments when you're falling asleep, that's the image that flashes up in your mind.
Oh my
The
god, that's
Submariner.
fantastic. I feel so judged right now. That was perfect. I didn't know. I was like, this is kind of interesting where he's going. Oh, it's a little whimsical. And then when you close the deal, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. That was fantastic.
I'm a little kinder, but I do soul reading. So.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. I love that. That's gonna linger with me.
No, to be fair, I also, I love that watch so much. So it's for me, it's kind of at the end of the day. Look, we love pursuing our own taste and our own interest, and I think there's enough room now online and on YouTube to pursue something that's more niche and that's more curated and that's a little off the beaten path. But all of that being said, I think there is something about lasting icons that you just can't quite deny. So for me, that really is my core. That is the kind of beautiful simplicity that set me on a certain path. Complications for me came later. More refined aesthetic touches and other sorts of case shapes came for me much later. But at the end of the day, I feel there is something that ties them all together, and there is a reason that certain designs just transcend time. There's a certain balance to them. There's a certain imprint to them. There's a certain purposefulness to them, even if they have outlived that purpose. And 5513 is just that. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm thinking. Like, I've been quantified, enumerated, and analyzed. No, yeah, I don't know. It's always lingered with me. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, I love that piece.
What year is yours?
1968.
68. So it's like way pre-comics.
Yeah, it has meters first.
Is it the Guilt? Yeah, no, it's the Guilt.
No, meters first. It's not Guilt. It's post-Guilt. Meters first. Has the riveted bracelet, so it's before the transition to folded non-riveted as well. I love wearing it on its full bracelet, but I had it restored maybe by now a few years ago already by Michael Young in Hong Kong. So since then, I wear it on the bracelet a little more sparingly, even though they did an incredible job. So I would not hesitate to send it back whenever. I still like, putting on a NATO is one of my favorite things. Let me see if I have, because that watch just looks amazing on a NATO.
So this actually raises another question for something that somebody talked about in JJ's WhatsApp group. Is I wear my watches, they come off my wrist, I wipe them with a microfiber cloth, they go in the case, then until they come out next time. Every few months, I'll run them under warm water and then just air dry them and then wipe them with a microfiber cloth. I don't do toothpaste, toothbrush, nothing. Never really needed to. I don't feel I needed to. Maybe I'm missing out. How would you take care of that vintage Rolex?
Two ways. Well, first of all, I do like them a little grimy, to be honest, when it comes to tool watches. So my Reverso is much more baby than my sub. So I don't even, when I take it off, a lot of times I put it back to the watch box if it's in rotation. But I don't even let it touched by a microfiber cloth. When I wear it on the NATO strap, if I'm wearing it very often, every 2 weeks, the NATO strap gets washed by me. And when that gets out, I basically clean with a combination of a toothpick and a soft toothbrush. The insides of the lugs. I use a microfiber cloth to just get the larger grime of it. And a lot of times I just use toothpaste, a little, like a small dab of toothpaste to shine the crystal as well.
Okay, all right.
So, not I don't immerse or submerge it in water, even though I do get the gaskets checked out basically once a year. But I've never been into like, just hosing washes down. Even with my Seikos, I jump in the pool and then I take a quick shower, and they're on my wrist, and that's it. I don't. Yeah, I don't cook, I don't clean, as the song says.
I've got a teenager. I distinctly cook and clean.
No, I mean, I like cooking, but I'm not a huge fan of cleaning, and the watches get that treatment too. I like them a little grimy, to be brutally honest. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. I was curious because one of these days, man, I can totally see myself. So the Gilt was, I think they stop the Gilt in '69?
No, Gilt stopped a little earlier.
So it would have been '66 then.
Probably
right.
66, 65.
I saw one of those in person once, and that the bubbling, right, the raised, loom. I was like, wow, that's nice. That's
67.
nice.
67.
67. So yeah, so I mean 77, I'm definitely not getting anything terribly special, but I'm gonna have a birth year. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna have a 5513 birth year.
77 meters first, you can get a beautiful watch. Honestly, I like the charm of the Gilt dials. I think, they're very special. There's some beautiful, pre-Daytona chronos that have those sorts of Gilt dials that are beautiful. But I guess that's because that came to me, and I basically, since age 18, I've grown up with it in a way. I've become a man with it. I guess I prefer the matte black. It's just Gilt never hit me that way.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. For me, I have no emotional attachment, so I have no right. So for me, it's an easy thing to say. But yeah, I totally get it.
Whew.
It's getting close to 1:30, man. I think at 1:30, I'm gonna have to call it for me.
Okay.
The adrenaline, I've been going more or less continuously since Sunday afternoon.
Yeah,
the adrenaline's wearing out, and I'm trying to figure out if I have anything in the house to eat. With the teenage daughter and her friends, that's always a challenge.
Are you looking forward to tomorrow, or are they hungry already?
No, I want to have something to eat before I go to sleep.
I see. Okay.
But yeah, no, I'm not looking forward to tomorrow at all. It's getting close to the end of the school year, so all the school year activities are intersecting. There's like a million different school meetings to go to, and any number of things. The school's different. This, get out of the comments, get back in here.
And I think he's getting ready to go out. So let's not.
Yeah, I don't want to drill him.
Lock
I have something else here you might be interested in. I picked
if it's
up
a watch, I'm interested in it.
It's not a watch.
Okay.
It's not a watch. It's Sandeman's Port 50 year.
Oh, cool.
And they have a nice presentation. It's a nice, this is a thick wood that they use.
Nice.
This is definitely like one of the absolute best presentation boxes for any sort of.
I like that, because usually, sometimes with presentation boxes, they can try too hard, and it kind of takes the shine away from what it's supposed to present.
Yeah.
In this case, it's classy, but it's subtle enough. And of course, since I come to it more from the Scotch side of things, so for me, when you say port, I think about port casks that are used to, age Scotch, or that are used to finish Scotch a certain way. So that would makes absolute sense to me.
So I liked my scotches when I was able to drink them, but I liked rye, American rye, better.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
Angel's Envy, although like it's a complete joke that, I mean, Whistle Pig, Angel's Envy, they're all made from the same bulk distributor, whatever, right? But they have the Angel's Envy, the port finished rye. Really enjoyed that.
Mm.
The port finishing on that. And yeah, back Highland Park was, I'm going back a long time. Highland, I really, really, really enjoyed myself, Highland Park. But I got away from scotches, and I rarely drink. Pretty much, I'm always drinking non-alcoholic beer. But when I do drink, I do like to have a little bit of port and maybe a little bit of wine, when I'm out and about. But I did like the presentation of that.
What happened? Did you have a particular reason to?
So enough people are aware of this that I don't mind saying it. So I'm still in recovery from. I mean, you're in remission for X number of years, no matter what. But I have renal cancer, and for whatever reason, after that, even when I was given the go ahead to have very limited alcohol, if I have any of the scotches I used to like, of which I have a ton of bottles still, I get the worst headache and I get chills. There's just something about it.
Mhm.
So over time, can't any amount of, I don't like gin, but I can't consume gin. I forget what the tequila was. I can't consume most tequilas, and I'm not a big fan of tequila in the first place. I can't consume any bourbons, ryes, anything like that. If a wine is heavy in sulfates, no way. It makes me just ill. So I found that like Taylor Fladgate and a couple of the port brands were always safe. And they're obviously, and like Inniskillen and ice wines were always safe as well. They're dessert wines. You always have, very, very little in the first place, but I can still enjoy those. And then I just don't, for beer, I don't know what it is. This is like Athletic Light is like, it's not even, I don't want to say it's Coors Light. It's like Miller Light. So when I was much younger, much younger, God, a long time
Didn't they
ago.
have a problem recently because they were calling themselves the champagne of beers or something? Miller Lite.
Probably, yeah. Like, but it was, God, it's so long ago. So Rusty Wallace was driving in NASCAR. I was never a fan of NASCAR. I'm not really a fan of Formula One, although I enjoy like watching Formula One. But I had a lot of friends that every weekend we'd get together, we'd throw darts, and there would be NASCAR races, and there would just be Miller Lite and Yingling as well, right? This reminds me of Miller Lite, and it just reminds me of those times, like just playing darts with friends. I enjoy it. It's NA. They have a delivery service. I enjoy it. But yeah, the ports, I really like Sandemann's. I have a couple. I've got their bottle of 30 sitting. These just got delivered to me today, so they're sitting close to me before I put them away. I really like Sandemann's, and a lot of people, they sort of by Taylor Fladgate, and there's obviously a number of different companies, but for me, Sandemann's is just phenomenal. So I'll enjoy that every so often. Not often. I try not to drink often for health and sanity reasons, but yeah, I think sanity reasons more than health, because health has been steadily improving. Also, not drinking, 2 years ago when I first, and I don't know because we were talking about that guy who would follow me from stream to stream, criticize my weight. 2 years ago, I was almost 100 pounds heavier when I first started the YouTube stuff. Like almost a full 100 pounds heavier.
You do look slimmer. I didn't want to blow smoke up your backside, but
it's just so
you do look slimmer than when I first seen you.
Yeah, I'm still clearly obese. I'm not like, I don't get the guy. I don't know what he intended me to do, like to start crying. Like, okay, thank you for pointing out the obvious that I'm old and I'm fat.
Dude,
good job.
They keep telling me sometimes that I have a unibrow, and I'm like, yeah, I have mirrors in my house. I know it's there. I know exactly where it is. I can point to it if you want.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing what people will like get, will get like worked up about and
It's
stuff like that.
also, not to be. I mean, I'm obviously not homophobic. I guess I don't even need to say this, but I also consider it, especially from this sort of macho, testosterone-driven kind of audience. I consider it kind of sus that they would obsess so much over
Sure.
another man's appearance online. It, to me, it's very strange vibes I get from those kinds of people. No matter what it is that they obsess over, it can be your weight, your
That's
height,
a fair
your
assessment.
bodily appearance, your face. It just feels like, what exactly is it that you are repressing about yourself, that you have to that has to come out in this way. I guess this will be a Freudian stream if if
Yeah,
you
there we go. We're
feel
going
it.
we're going all in on Freud right now. Um yeah, so but yeah, I got nothing else, I do want to do a stream. I should actually, well, no, I can't because there's streams late, so I could do it maybe on the weekends. So I have a membership to a place called Grand Cathedral Cigar in Tampa that has a VIP lounge, right? Restricted
Oh,
access, the beautiful leather, beautiful decorations, and they have a relationship with Fuente, so they have a steady supply of Opus X, and a lot of the ultra limited, like super rare Opus X. Uh, I know you enjoy your cigars,
yes,
so
sir.
I do have. This is I still haven't broken this in, but I did. Berluti sent me this, just a two finger.
Nice. Yeah.
Um,
I need to get a three cigar one soon, because the two, it came really handy in New York, because I would kind of get out of the apartment with two that I would smoke for the night, and I would just go to a Carnegie Club and pay for the cutting fee.
yep.
Um, but three seems to be the perfect number for me for this kind of thing, especially when you are out and about with friends or others, because if it's something special, you can have one to smoke yourself,
Yeah.
one to share, and one to perhaps trade. So two is great also for just one for yourself, one for a friend. But three, it seems, is company. It's a little better, because it can be something you share with more than one person, or you can simply trade. Hey, I have this, I have another box at home. I'll give this to you, and maybe you'll give this, give something to me, etc. I think that's a great number for a cigar
You're right.
box.
You're absolutely right. Three's for exactly the reasons you iterated. Right. There's always two. Oh, I prefer two just for the carry. The carryability. Um, Especially in Florida, I'm always carrying. There's a flashlight. There's a knife. There's a firearm. Right. There's all these. So there's always stuff to be carried. So I prefer the two for carryability, but for exactly the reasons, like a three, I have three two finger cases. Um, I do need to get a three finger case. I need a three finger case. With your permission, though, I do want to try to wind down, and
Of
I
course.
really appreciate, first of all, for everybody who tuned in for the unboxing and the show. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate Young Brando for always being a gracious and enlightening host. Dis, it was good to see you as well. And I wish you luck. I will see you before the next unboxing, but I will see you for that as well. So take care, man.
Thank you so much, Ali. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your watch with us.
I appreciate the time. Y'all take care.
Take care. I'm sorry that in the chat, in writing, sometimes those nuances get lost. Since I know who St. Peter is, since I've met him in real life, and I know also his sense of humor, I almost immediately identified that as his signature sarcasm. So it is exactly that. I do want to go back to Bukowski's, but if someone would like to jump on the panel and talk watches with me, I'm always grateful for that. It was truly amazing for me tonight to have, first of all, Alireza come and do his special unboxing of Karl Zuchi und Söhne Waltz #1 Day and Night watch. His is actually basically a special order because at the highest level, the company was really welcoming to him and really sold him on their products, really gave him that experience of personality, of intimacy, of emotion, of the story that goes with these kinds of watches. And Ali's is basically this black and white version in a stainless steel case rather than the DLC coated black version. And it runs on an micro rotor caliber by Vaucher, which is a manufacturer in Fleurier, mainly supplying movements to Parmigiani Fleurier, but also Hermes, starting with the H1837 self-winding base caliber. They also make for many, many big companies. I have recently discovered that the reduced size self-winding calibers for the Audemars Piguet Royal Oaks in this generation are made by Vaucher. So that is the league. That is what they are aiming at. That's what they deliver. So I'm really happy to see the emergence of yet another, watch company out of Austria. Of course, I'm a huge fan and supporter of Habring 2. I loved their collaboration with Benzinga on the Gap 1. And I certainly look forward to whatever else might come soon from Karl Zuchi und Söhne. The Belvedere is actually a very interesting entry by them into the luxury sports watch category, and it does come at a relatively affordable price point as well, at 8,600, I think, in euro. Actually, it has this very dimensional dial that adopts that contrasting pattern of stripes, and that has this center dial that makes 1 revolution per day, and that integrates a jumping date into it, which I again appreciate, because I always get irked by the mere intrusion of the date on a watch, right, which is usually a reflection of design by committee. Or focus group dictates that we need to have a date indicator on the watch. I always hate when it's not integrated functionally or aesthetically to that particular timepiece. In this case, they have certainly done their homework. They have certainly implemented something special. And I believe this piece is built on a Dubois Desprat movement. Yes, that's what we have here. And it actually has a depiction of the Belvedere castle on the rotor, which is a very nice and special touch. and the movement is framed by a ring on the back as well. Once again, an interesting touch of luxury, and I like the fact that the rubber band integrates really well into the case design, and they have somehow managed to have a pure, simple expression without being dull, by still keeping some visual interest. So I appreciate this company, and I will be looking forward to seeing more from them in the future. Alireza, thank you. 29.33 in US dollars. Thank you, YB and the audience. Keep up the excellent coverage, education, and entertainment. And thank you to Karl Zuchi for making my watch happen. That's great. Right. So we were looking at Bukowski's in Stockholm, which is an affiliate of Bonhams. And I believe actually this particular auction, which is taking place on the 26th, and it is already the 26th in continental Europe, of course. And it will start at 7 p.m. in Central European summer time. I've gone through a good chunk of it. I started from the end, so let's start from the beginning. Number one is Patek Philippe perpetual calendar in, sorry, what am I talking about? Annual calendar in 39 millimeter sizing. As you probably know, the annual calendar was Patek's proprietary complication. It was their way of introducing a useful, a utilitarian, an everyday complication that was accessible to a broader group of collectors, to a larger base of enthusiasts. That was in 1996, and it was with the reference 5035. That was, of course, a smaller case, 37 millimeter. This particular generation, which carries the reference number 5146, in this case, 5146G, is 39 millimeters. It has Arabic numerals at 3, 9, and 12 o'clock. A power reserve indicator right under 12 o'clock. The date at 6, above it, the moon phase, and the day of the week is at 9 o'clock with the month indicator at 3. In a way, this particular generation, both with its larger case and the Arabic numerals, as well as the power reserve indicator on the dial, is perhaps a little more youthful, a little more dynamic, a little less conventional. I love a lot the original reference point, 5035, for sure, because I feel, to me, that really represents what I like most about Patek, which is that those sorts of proportions, those classic aesthetics, that particular kind of approach to watchmaking that harkens back to the Genevan tradition. But nevertheless, you have here one of the last of a generation, in a way, as an absolute full set. An annual calendar from around 2007, still carries the hallmark of Geneva on its caliber, which is self-winding and is built on the caliber 315 base. This is lot number 1. And the estimated value of this watch at the lower end of the pre-auction estimates is right around 19,500 in US dollars. If you would like to draw my attention to any particular lot, feel free to send in the lot number with a super chat. By the way, I've forgotten this while I was welcoming this and Ali at the beginning of the conversation. Jake Brooks, right after we closed the first live stream for Ali Reza's unboxing, made a very generous super chat congratulating Ali on his new acquisition. So I do want to relay that message. I do also want to congratulate again Corrado Galizia as the winner of the third Seiko 5 Rowing Blazers watch in my giveaway. So hopefully he will make his choice and we will go from there and we will know how I will give away the fourth one as well. I want to go, speaking of 4, I want to go forward with lot number 4, which is a pre-moon Omega Speedmaster. Everyone, of course, goes crazy for a 321, and by all means, here is the Lemania CH27 base in all its gilt glory, in its iteration of Omega 321. Beautiful column wheel chronograph that represents some of the most important achievements in terms of its miniaturization, in terms of its complication, and in terms of its sheer ability to be industrially produced and to have provided the base for not only hand-wound chronographs and split-second chronographs, but also perpetual calendars and more. It certainly defined an era in the way perhaps L9511 has opened a new era for high horological chronographs with Lange's introduction of the datograph in 1999. This is an Omega Speedmaster from 1967. In a way, it's very well worn. As you can see, the dial itself looks in a good condition. I believe this is all crystal that is scratched and that they did not want to mess with. As always, of course, if you are genuinely interested, you should reach out to Helen Bateman at this address about lot 4 to learn more about the condition, but the case actually looks in good shape. And it is certainly an important piece of tool watch history, this pre-moon Omega Speedmaster chronograph at lot number 4. The low end of the pre-auction estimates puts the value of the watch right around 2,900. Thank you, Ozzy. I appreciate you, man. And feel free to jump on if there's something you want to talk about. Lot 5 is a beautiful 5-liner Omega Seamaster. I think a kind reminder again that the Seamaster was quite an expansive and sprawling line. This is a 14-carat yellow gold dress watch that is pretty diminutive by today's standards, but actually comes in that size that seems to be increasing in popularity in 34 millimeters. The movement is what they call a bumper automatic movement. So basically, the winding is accomplished with a rotor that does not have full rotation, because Rolex had the patent on it for the longest time, which either led many companies to shy away from devising self-winding movements. Some stuck to their guns for hand-wound calibers like Patek Philippe. Others have experimented with bumper automatic movements like the Omega we see here. Universal Genève actually found encouragement and reason to design their original micro rotor caliber, which most iconically powered a lot of interesting examples of the pole router, that particular design by a youthful Gerard Janta at the sprightly age of 23. Although there are also many Universal Genève pole routers that feature bumper automatic caliber too, for exactly the reasons that we mentioned. Smash the super chat. Thank you, St. Peter. So this is a beautiful piece again from the 50s that comes in a nice, stylish cardboard coffin-like presentation box by Omega. The case looks like it is really in a beautiful condition, in 14 carats yellow gold, with those classical design elements of drooping lugs, an oversized subdial for the seconds, and an absolutely beautiful two-tone silver dial that has a Breguet numeral at 12 o'clock, which is a lovely finishing touch on a piece like this. This is a 5-liner Omega Seamaster from around 1950 at lot 5. And at the lower end, the estimated value of the piece places the value right around 970, 980 US dollars. That's one of the reasons I look at Bukowski's, by the way. You know, in a similar way, Brun Rasmussen in Denmark, Bukowski's, other sorts of smaller auctioneers in different parts of Europe, in a way, have a broader variety of watches some of the usual suspects, yes, but certainly a lesser sampling of hype watches. And really, at the end of the day, I think they allow for pieces that can be gotten at quite a bargain, if not necessarily for a song. I mean, look at this beautiful 18 karat pink gold Reverso duo face, for example. This is the Night and Day in the Grand Taille case with the classic Reverso look on the recto side. You have the single folding déployant clasp in the old school style, which is actually very comfortable. And you have a beautiful GMT watch with a completely different approach on the Verso side. You get the broadsword hands and the loomed Arabic numerals at 3, 9, and 12 o'clock. Again, nicely guilloche decorated, framed in Claude Paris or hobnail, and then the center of the dial, as well as the center of the subdial for the 24-hour hand, is laid in a rosette kind of pattern, presented on a classic ostrich strap, like gold ostrich strap with contrast stitching. Here's a Reverso Night and Day from around the turn of the new millennium at 2000. This is lot number 7, and the pre-auction estimates puts the value of the watch right around $5,800 US. At lot number 8, we have one of the rising stars in the world of Rolex collecting. The Oyster Quartz pieces have found some energized enthusiasm among collectors. This one comes with a relatively recent service from 2018, and with the cards that confirms this. It's a reference 17,000, which is the Datejust. Of course, it comes on that integrated bracelet design. Right? The case has seen better days and has been a little enthusiastically polished for my liking. It needs to be pointed out. I really love the integrated execution of the Oyster bracelet, of the President bracelet, as well of the presidential bracelets. I'm not a huge fan of the Jubilee, for the records, in this particular execution, in the integrated version, but I think this is a beautiful aesthetic, actually. I would love to see the return of a particular, this kind of integrated design to the Rolex lineup, ideally with a self-winding movement, of course. And I think they can do it. I think they can do it, especially with the way they started integrating the silicone hairspring into the lineup now, with the new introduction of Perpetual 1908. As you guys know, that watch is a very thin watch by Rolex standards compared to a watch from the professional line with the Oyster case. It's substantively thinner, And one of the ways in which they achieve that, and again, Rolex doesn't do things just because, is simply due to the fact that they have used the Siloxy hairspring, which does not require the Breguet overcoil. So they can, in fact, make a caliber that's simply slimmer, simply thinner. Speaking of which, a lot of integrated bracelets watches do need that sort of slim down treatment that has been part of the aesthetic, with especially the two initial designs, two groundbreaking designs in the genre by Gérard Giunta in Audemars Piguet Royal Oak and the Patek Philippe Nautilus. So it would be lovely, actually, for Rolex to somehow make an entrance into this category, both in a way of paying homage to the past, kind of coming up with a new version of this integrated design, using the new silicone hairspring to come up with a case that's much slimmer, sleeker, and perhaps even sexier than this particular design, which I think has already a lot of appeal. This is lot number 8 from late 70s, Rolex Oyster Ports Datejust, with relatively recent service in 2018. And the estimated value at its lower end puts the value of the piece right around $2,900. At number 9, we have an ever ascendant brand, Cartier. Cartier is having a certain purple patch lately. Of course, they are on the rise due to their designs, due to their unusual shapes and forms, and in many ways also with their timeless elegance. So even with Ronde, which is their simple round watch, I think they have a certain sleekness to it that makes it pretty unique. This is from the CP line, with this very distinctive rosette guilloche pattern on the silver dial. Of course, you have the beautiful and classic Roman numerals with an invisible Cartier signature hiding in the V of Roman numeral 7. You have here also a 24-hour dial with Arabic numerals radially laid out along the railroad track, which is for the minutes. And of course, over and against that silvered guilloche dial, you have the heat-blued Breguet style hands, apple-shaped hands, an absolute Cartier classic from the CP collection. Beaded gold grip on that crown, which is topped off with sapphire cabochon as well. Pardon me. The original certificate, the red box treatment for the CP. And the matching 18 karat pink gold déployant clasp. There you go. Again, very simple, in a way austere, but also decorated in a very distinctive manner by Cartier. I love the way they overlay that double wishbone logo on the bridge plates, and you also have this heat blued regulator that echoes with the shape of the Cartier logo with the initial, and that's just a beautiful and subtle touch. And of course, that immediately recognizable clasp as well. Just a pure style, perfectly round case with those stubby lugs that make it in so many ways the perfect dress watch. The hand wound caliber, of course, in many ways facilitates that. And look at how beautiful those heat blued hands look. And honestly, it's one of the simplest but most beautiful things about classic dress watches. Sometimes I spent minutes looking at how the heat blued hands catch the light from various angles on my Reverso. But then again, I'm autistic, so that's another thing altogether. But I think even normal people, even people who are not necessarily blessed with neurodivergence, can enjoy those things. This is lot number 9. It is Cartier Ronde, their sleek, round dress watch from the CPCP collection from year 2005. The pre-auction estimates puts the valuation of this watch at the lower end, right around $4,850 in US dollars. Nick Butter, thank you. I skipped forward to lot 122 and saw a very modern Omega Chrono. Of course I can share. Of course. Let's take a look at that. I will pull up 122 and I will respond to Chris as well in the meantime. Thank you again for $10, Nick. I really appreciate it. I might have a couple of pieces coming in, Chris, but I will just recite my collection very quickly. I do want to make a state of the collection video, and once I set my studio and set my new equipment, which is incoming in May, I also want to kind of do a separate video for each piece in the collection. So very quickly, I have basically 2 parts of my collection. One is vintage and neo-vintage Rolex. One is everything else. My Rolex collection is the 5513 meters first Submariner on its original riveted bracelets. I have original root beer, so to speak, the 5-digit transitional version with the nipple dial, so 16753. I have Polar Explorer 2 16570 from right around 2000, so that has actually the solid end links, Luminova on the dial. My most modern Rolex watch, which I really enjoy in its own way, even though I wouldn't venture, again, personal preference, I wouldn't venture into anything beyond that. I love the fact that it still has the Holst case, that I can still take it apart and put it on a NATO, put it on a different kind of strap and just enjoy it that way as well. Very practical. But I love wearing it on the solid end link Oyster bracelet too. And I love that polar white dial. I have a 16014 late 70s Rolex Datejust. Again, all stainless steel with the silver linen dial, with the 18 karat white gold fluted bezel. I love the vibes of that watch. Great dress watch, great everyday wear, great on the jingly jangly Jubilee, but also kind of cool to put it on a simple leather strap as well. Where are we? Then I have my Coke 16710 from around 1997. So lovely eggshell patina on the luminous material on the case and the hands, on the dial and the hands. The black on the bezel has turned into a kind of navy blue. The red on the bezel has turned into kind of like a soft pink. It's really beautiful. Again, delight to wear on the Oyster bracelet, but also a lot of fun. Then I have my Reverso Grand Date, which is what I'm wearing today. I don't want to go on and on, so I will just be a little quicker here. I have my Breguet Type 20. I have my Universal Genève Tri-Compacts, the triple calendar chronograph from 1940s. And I also have another piece from 1940s, which is my Lemania chronograph, absolutely diminutive, absolutely beautiful in that small, like, 33 millimeter pink gold case with the CH27 base. So those are my 9 watches in the collection, Chris. Thanks for your interest. So here we go. We have at lot 122, thanks to Nick Butter's urging, a Constellation Double Eagle chronograph. Of course, when you say chronograph in Omega, we almost immediately go to the Speedmaster. We go for the Moonwatch. Even the reduced size Speedmaster with the self-winding mechanism fades away. Of course, the Seamaster has appeared with many chronograph versions over the years, which had mixed success. But Constellation chronographs are not seen every day. This is 44 millimeter piece, has a kind of tonneau shaped case presented on a rubber band, really sporty, takes advantage of that integrated bracelet evocation of the Omega Constellation, right? After all, Gerard Janta infused that line with a new spirit at the urging of Omega. This particular piece is a day date as well. So you have here an aperture at 12 o'clock for the day, an aperture at 6 o'clock for the dates, a 30-minute counter at 3 o'clock, continuous running seconds at 9 o'clock, and then you have actually a counter for day and an hour, right? You have a 12-hour counter and you have a day counter. The presentation case and the original papers as well. It's the Double Eagle chronograph in stainless steel with the self-winding coaxial movement. I want to make sure. Yeah, there we go. We have a deployant strap. I mean, in a way, this is kind of the entry into the Royal Oak offshore category by Omega more than anything. It's not something that necessarily hit. I think that bezel is a rotational bezel as well, and you have a kind of take on the rubberized aesthetics on the pushers and the crown. And like a waffle like dial as well at the center. And the pre-auction estimates puts the value of the watch right around 2,900 US dollars. Thank you, Shamba. And Nick, thank you for the compliments. Yeah, I mean, offshore, really, Royal Oak offshore. That's the aesthetic that they clearly went with. They still did something unique for themselves, and Constellation, after all, is something that has the Midas touch of Gérard Jantin. So if they are gonna go anywhere with that, that's probably the model to choose. I always wanted a day date, but I'm a little too picky when it comes to day dates. You know, I want, first of all, I think really white gold. I might settle for a pink gold, and both of those carry a premium. And it's even harder to find them on a presidential bracelet, which is an absolute must for me. Because if you get a yellow gold piece that's in stellar condition and that somehow was originally bought on a leather strap, you can source a period correct yellow gold, presidential strap. Somehow you can find it, bracelet, I mean, and you can match it. But with white gold and pink gold, that's just prohibitive. So the minefield aspect, I'm relatively well educated when it comes to these things, so I know I can overcome that. But really, to find one that is in the condition that I want can be too expensive for my liking. That's my problem with the day dates, because as much as I like the classic 1803 in yellow gold, I want something that's a little more special than that, which makes it even harder, like you said. So going back up, there's a nice date just there from right around the turn of the century at lot number 10. Again, box papers bought from Wempe in Kurfürstendamm in Berlin in 2001. Comes in its box, outer box, original chronometer certification as well. It is a 16 to 20, which means all in stainless steel, and an engine turned stainless steel bezel presented on the Jubilee bracelets. It has still its case back sticker intact as well. The case looks in a very good condition. And the bracelets, even though they don't have that classic pose, seems to be in good condition, seems to have good life left in it. But of course, that's something one needs to ask. But this, even from this pose, if it were completely shot, there would be no way that this watch would be standing like this. So even this gives us an idea about the minimal stretch on this bracelet. And this is lot number 10, 16220. Rolex Datejust on matching Jubilee bracelets, all in stainless steel. The lower end of the pre-auction estimates puts the value of the watch right around $3,900 US. You know, my problem with the Sea Dwellers, Shamba, is I just want the double red. I just want the double red. That won't scratch the itch. I mean, there's so many beautiful Sea Dwellers through history. Don't take me wrong. But I'm just so obsessed with a 1665 double red that if I get any other Sea Dweller to add it to this collection, I'll just feel like, I settled, and I don't like that. Again, it's me being picky and working against myself. Here's a Hoya Carrera in the reverse panda configuration, but it is actually made for Volvo, so their logo takes the center stage. In stainless steel, 36 millimeter case. Let's see how it really looks. In a pretty decent condition too, the case. The case back certainly looks very healthy. Presented on a generic strap with a generic buckle. But again, the condition is pretty stellar, inside and out. Of course, the dial has taken on some patina, which is especially noticeable on the hands. The lume has faded and aged into this shade of pumpkin, which I think is a lovely accent against the black. I really love the color scheme on these, where you have the chapter ring in white, black dial, and then the chronograph registers in white with that radial guilloche as well. And you get the co-signature of Hoya, which is actually stamped right into the 12-hour counter at 6 o'clock. This is a very interesting piece, a very unique piece. I guess it makes sense that it would surface from Sweden. It is consigned by the nephew of the original owner, and the letter says, "My uncle moved to California in 1963, where he started working at a car dealership in Sacramento. In 1964, he made contact with Volvo in San Fernando Valley outside Los Angeles and started working as manager. In the mid 70s, he took over a car dealership on Hollywood Boulevard that sold Fiat, Lancia, Alfa Romeo, and Saab, but his heart still beat for Volvo. So in the late 70s and early 80s, he started Ventura, Volvo, and ran it until he retired in the early 2000s. Bukowski's takes great pride in presenting a rare gem to the public market, the Hoya Volvo Carrera reference 2447 NST. Noir, Soleil, I think, and then T is for the tachometer, with provenance from its original owner, with only a handful of these watches known to exist on the market. This is an extraordinary opportunity to own a truly exceptional timepiece. During its heyday, Hoya leveraged strategic distribution centers in the United States, which paved the way for a few select and bespoke collaborations between Hoya and other premium brands, such as Volvo. This watch was made exclusively for high-performance Volvo employees in the US, according to our correspondence with Hoya. The special edition represents an exceptional period in their history. So late 60s, beautiful 3-register chronograph running on the classic, on the legendary Valjoux 72 caliber base, much like the Daytona, much like the Universal compacts, like the Nina Rind, for example. Great complement, much like many pre-Daytona Rolex chronographs. And this particular piece, with the pre-auction estimates, we have an estimated value of $14,600 at the lower end. Yeah, well, I mean, Volvo presents something else, I suppose, but certainly it has a very nice history to it. I actually appreciate it. I appreciate seeing these sorts of rare gems. At lot 21, we have a beautiful Patek Philippe travel time in lady size, 29.5. This is the with a knurled bezel, classic Calatrava case with the additional hour hand, of course, in addition to the 24-hour hand, the day and night indicator, so to speak. And of course, you have at 6 o'clock a subdial for seconds as well. Breguet numerals that match the gilt tones of the case. And you have essentially a full set here, down to the original warranty papers from the dealer, all the product literature documentation, certificate of origin, tags, pouch, and the old school Patek presentation case for these kinds of dress watches as well, in a very beautiful deep burgundy color. Matching original Patek Philippe buckle too. Beautifully preserved. Seems barely worn, to be honest. and a certificate of origin signed by Philippe Stern. Lot 21 is a lady size Calatrava travel time from around 1999. And the estimated value places this piece at the lower end, right around 4,850 US dollars. By the way, I'm entering the last 30 minutes for the broadcast, so just so you know, if you want to ask any questions, if you want to direct my attention to any particular lots, feel free to take a look at this page and send me the lot number. We have again a very dainty, beautiful piece by Patek Philippe from the interwar years. Perfectly round case with spade hand, elegantly twisted for the hours. The numbers are painted in Breguet style Arabic numerals, the hour markers, I should say. Railroad track for the minutes. The dial has taken on a parchment like patina. The case is perfectly round and almost dime sized with extended lugs and a very nice, stylish crown. Look at that caliber with the finger bridges. And this is actually a hinged case back too. You have a beautifully engraved inner case back there. In 18 karat gold, and the case is around 26.5. So again, would be a beautiful and very elegant dress watch. The dial, unfortunately, is restored for lot 24. But the pre-auction estimate places the value of this watch right under $2,000. So it could still be an interesting catch. At number 26, we have a vintage Angelus watch, again, presumably from the immediate post-war era. As you might know, Angelus or Angelus is a recently revived brand as well, and they have a pretty modern take on the Chronodato, which is a triple calendar chronograph, 2 registers, 45-minute counter in this case at 3 o'clock, continuous running seconds at 9. You have the month through an aperture at 12 o'clock and the day of the week through an aperture at 6 o'clock. And finally, on the per meter of the dial, you have a pointer date. I think this is a very good piece of design, and I really love this two-tone dial. Yes, the hands are corroded. Yes, the chronograph seconds hand is absolutely fucked and nowhere to be seen. but as a design, I really, really do appreciate the Angelus Conodato. Here it is served up on a Paralon NATO strap, 38 millimeter stainless steel case, a hand wound caliber for this triple calendar 2-register chronograph at lot 26. And at the lower end, the estimated value of this watch is right around 1,500 US dollars. Speaking of Seamaster chronographs, there we go. We have one that is heavily stopwatch inspired and in a bullhead configuration. Of course, that this design that harkens to the stopwatch also takes its element from its nickname, so to speak, from the placement of the pushers. As you can see, this watch is again in dire need of service. You saw that loose chronograph seconds hand. Apparently, the crown is loose too. It certainly is in dire need of service. This Seamaster bullhead chronograph from 60s. You have an internally rotating bezel for timing as well. A 30 minutes totalizer at 12 o'clock, continuous running seconds at 6, and a date indicator at 3:02. This is an Omega Seamaster bullhead chronograph from the 70s with its distinctive stopwatch-like design. I think it's a beautiful looking watch. It's a shame that it's in this condition. I love the colors on the dial. I love that racing track for the minutes. Hopefully it will go to someone who can appreciate it and who will get it serviced and restored in the right way. This is lot 27. And the pre-auction estimates puts the value of the watch right around $3,900. At lot 29, we have one of my favorite Rolex references. As Shamba was mentioning, where one can go next within that vintage, neo-vintage collection, 5-digit Daytona is certainly one great way to go. 16520. Introduced in 1988 as the first self-winding version of Rolex's sports chronograph, the Daytona, built on the first, if not the very first, certainly one of the first integrated self-winding chronograph movements in the world, named thus Zenith El Primero. This is, of course, Rolex's modified version, caliber 4030, which reduces the frequency, first of all, of that high beat caliber to 4 hertz. Presented on its oyster bracelet with the caseback sticker intact. Late 90s piece, presumably right around 1998, with outer box literature and the calendar. This is Rolex Cosmograph Daytona, Zenith Daytona, so to speak, 16520. I have a softer spot for the white dials on this one. I think they have a certain classical elegance to them that makes me imagine them easily on a nice leather strap as well, as much as I love how they look on the Oyster bracelet. And this particular piece has a pre-auction estimate that places its value around 19,400 US dollars. That was lot 29 for Daytona 16520. We were talking about the increasing popularity of the Oyster quartz. Here is a fantastic example, very unique, and also full sets. In so many ways, this is the quintessential day dates, but in its Oyster quartz version, so in 18 karat yellow gold on its integrated presidential bracelets and the champagne dial. This is, of course, 19018 rather than 1803 or 18038 or 18238, which are all great references for this kind of Rolex Day Date watch. And not only do you get this beautiful full set, but also as if to commemorate a purchase from Sweden, actually a Swedish day wheel. How cool is that? I have seen all manner of different languages on these. I had never seen a day date before with a Swedish day wheel. Not that it should be so out of the ordinary, but it's not easy to find them necessarily. It's not something that you come across every day. And apparently it comes with the additional Spanish day wheel as well. How cool is that? You are getting the Sir Michael Caine special. As you might know, Bonhams London sold his personal 19018 last year for a record-breaking price for a Rolex with a quartz operated movement. And now Bukowski's putting up this absolute classic at lot 32, with the auction taking place today already for Central European summertime. And the pre-auction estimate puts the value of this watch at $8,750 in US dollars, $8,750 at the lower end. Beautiful opportunity, if you ask me. Just keep an eye out. Oops. Before I forget, I do want to cover what forms the thumbnail here. At lot 103, this is Tudor Black Bay 58. You can also call it Blue Bay because it is that blue snowflake version with the matte blue dial and the black blue bezel insert. Here, it actually is double signed by the factory to recognize, to commemorate Newman's, which is actually, I think, the biggest Rolex / Tudor dealer in Scandinavia, certainly the biggest in Sweden. Comes as a full set, of course, inner and outer box. The piece is also engraved on the case back, marking it as a limited edition as well. This was a limited run of only 51 examples, apparently, made for the employees of Newman's Uhr, the authorized dealer in Sweden. Apparently, their names were engraved on the case back, hence the excessive blurring there that doesn't only block out the number, but also the person's name, the original owner's name. The watch seems in a pretty pristine condition from less than 2 years ago, of course. This is the Blue Bay, Black Bay 58 with matte blue dial and the blue bezel insert. Beautifully customized at the factory with the blue Newman's logo, which adds a little bit of a quirk, especially due to the font to this watch. This is lot 103. And the estimated value at the lower end puts the price point at around $3,400 US dollars. Continuing the theme, at lot 34, we have a Tudor Pelagos FXT fixed lugs, the Marine Nationale edition from the first year, the 21. Again, comes as a full set. Including the rubber strap. Lot 34 for the Pelagos FXD Marine Nationale 21. The estimated value puts value of this watch right around 4,400 US dollars. Another interesting and Swedish customized piece, a piece with Swedish provenance. Lot 33 is a 3-register Breitling top time chronograph with the Chronometre Stockholm logo. Beautiful panda dial with the tachometer on the perimeter, a 30-minute counter at 3 o'clock, 12-hour counter at 6, and a continuous running seconds at 9, centrally deployed. Chronograph seconds hand is in this beautiful shade of orange, a little bit fiery by the Patina 2, which can't hurt. Chronometer Stockholm is another Swedish dealer, of course. This 38 millimeter hand-wound chronograph runs on Venus 178, which is a column wheel hand-wound chronograph movements from the contemporary Breitling Navitimers used this same chronograph movement as well, just as a point of reference. Televerket is, I believe, the state telecommunications company for Sweden. So that's why it's inscribed like that, probably given to an employee. And that's what the provenance states too, consigned to Bukowski, Stockholm, by the family of the original owner, a former employee of Televerket in Norrbotten, Sweden. This is lot 33. Again, a top time that carries the crown at 12 o'clock. The emblem of Chronometre Stockholm. The pre-auction estimate puts the value of this watch at its lower end, right around $1,950. Memovox reporting from Denmark. Good morning to you, Memovox. We have about 10 minutes left, but thank you for coming in. Fun fact, in Sweden, Breitling used to be far more popular than Rolex. Well, we have a great hint towards the provenance of this watch, which is a very handsome piece indeed. And hey, it might not be a Rolex, but it still has a crown on the dial. That was lot 33 for the Breitling top time with a Chronometre Stockholm symbol on the dial, given to an former employee of the Swedish state telecommunications company. I have about 10 more minutes, so I will try to talk about 3 more watches. Here's a Zenit El Primero Chronomaster from around 2000. This is a beautiful piece, the likes of which Zenit simply doesn't make anymore. First of all, the case, both at the lugs and on the bezel, has this lovely stepped structure. Unfortunately, this particular example seems to be a little enthusiastically polished, so it is not as striking as it should look. A silver dial with Roman numerals. What we have is a triple calendar chronograph with a moon phase at 6 o'clock. That's a 12-minute counter as well. A 30-minute totalizer at 3, continuous running seconds at 9 o'clock. Right above that, you have the day of the week. And right above the minute totalizer, you have the month. Between 4 and 5 o'clock, you have the date. Since this is built on the Zenit El Primero movement, the tachometer is laid out on the perimeter of the dial. This is a beautiful piece that actually does come as a full set in its original presentation box, documentation, product literature, and you also get a peek onto the caliber 410 of this Zenit El Primero Chronomaster through the sapphire case back as well. The original Zenit buckle presented on a leather strap, a triple calendar chronograph with the moon phase at 40 millimeters. This is lot 36, and the pre-auction estimate puts the value of this watch right around $1,950 at its lower end. Oh. Please hit the like button while you're at it. It really, really does help. Once again, no surprise here, an early version of the Universal Genève pole router. After all, this was supposed to commemorate the signal achievement of Scandinavian Airline Systems, who charted the first commercial flight through a polar route, hence the polar router. This early example actually has the name of the model spelled in the original way, Dauphine hands that are loomed. The pips highlight the indices. The hour markers are also laid out on that inner fluted bezel, which is a distinct element of the original Gerard Janta design, which he accomplished at the sprightly age of 23. The crosshair layout of the center dial brings the balance of this beautiful three-hander into a sharp focus. The case with its distinctive lyre lugs is made by none other than Huguenin Frères, Huguenin Brothers, which were the case makers, of course, among others, for the Omega Speedmaster with those lyre lug cases. And as you can see, this early version has that bumper style self-winding caliber. This is before the pole router micro rotor caliber was introduced. That caliber number is 215, which would later see an upgrade into caliber 69. Waterproof case with the Universal Genève logo on the back. And this is gold plating on steel, but a very nice, beautiful, used but not abused example of the Universal Genève polar router with the polar dial. Absolutely Memovox. That should be an interesting deal to check out. And with that estimate, that puts the lower end of the price at around $500. It is certainly something to keep an eye out on. Again, that flight was introduced between Los Angeles and Copenhagen, so Memovox's entrance, seemingly belated, couldn't have been at a better time. Okay, last watch of the day. Please hit the like button if you're on your way out. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and completing the preview of some of the other auctions of the season. I want to draw your attention to a very nice Geneva Seal watch by Roger Dubuis. This is a beautiful cushion-shaped case. Of course, it carries the lines of the Sympathie design, which is kind of neither round nor rectangular. In the earliest editions, of course, it had a dial and crystal cut to that same distinctive shape, which was very unique. This is kind of a sportier iteration of that design in a case that they call La Monégasque. This is the name that is given to someone from Monaco in French. It has this beautiful two-tone slate gray kind of dial, a sporty version of the Dauphine hands for the hours and minutes, and small seconds on an oversized sub-dial. Look at those beautifully polished frames for both the sub-dial and the center dial. You have the Roger Dubuis branding at 12, Arabic numerals for the hour markers, and a distinctive navy blue chapter ring with number 60 in red for the minutes. Again, what you get is a full set here with all the product literature, documents, presentation box, as well as the outer box. And you get a self-winding caliber that carries the hallmark of Geneva, since Roger Dubuis, as you know, took a lot of pride in being a Genevan watchmaker. COSC certified caliber, that beautiful déployant clasp to match the stainless steel case, which is very sleek, and at 42 millimeters, quite a nice and sporty presence on the wrist. A beautiful sports watch with a stately appearance and the hallmark of Geneva from Roger Dubuis from around 2011 at lot 43. The pre-auction estimate puts the value of this watch right around $6,300 US dollars. Nice. Yeah, but I mean, I should just take the next flight to Copenhagen, and maybe I'll catch up with you on your Friday breakfast. That would be nice. Hey, Memovox, thank you so much. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much. Thank you, Ali, for the very special unboxing of the Karl Zuchi und Söhne Waltz #1 day and night in stainless steel. That was a beautiful watch. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for your support and presence. Please don't hesitate to hit the like button. Thank you, Dis, for coming on the panel. I want to see you here even more often. Thank you, everyone who super chatted in the last session, especially JB, who squeezed it in at the last second, and whom I want to recognize once again here in this stream. Nick Butter, Ali Raza, St. Peter, Dizerdis, St. Peter, GD, Dizerdis again. All of you, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully, tomorrow I'll focus on either Antiquorum or or another auction house, I might take a quick vote. Congratulations again, Corrado Galizia, for winning the Seiko 5 Rowing Blazers watch, as being one of my ardent supporters on Patreon. That being said, please do check that out. I think that's a great resource and a lot of important content, exclusive content that I provide you on a daily basis. Great deals, great value propositions, but also since I give you detailed reasoning for my selections, for my curation, I end up taking you on an educational and informative journey as well. So if you want to sign up, click the link and check it out. I think the tiers are pretty clearly laid out. But if you have any questions, you can always email me at lordhellespont5@gmail.com. That's lordhellespont@gmail.com. If you want to contribute to the channel, if you want to support the channel and help it sustain itself as a fully independent, autonomous platform that is completely in the service of its audience, that is entirely at the behest of its audience, you can always check the options. The links are now pinned in the chat. They're also included in the video description. Each and every contribution is welcome. In either case, thank you for being here. If you just hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't, that is already great support for me. I really, really do appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night as well. Take care.